Welcome back, everybody. We're the movie family. We are going to do our review of Enola.
Okay.
Excuse Ryan. We're going to do our review of Enola Holmes, the new Netflix movie starring Millie Bobby Brown, Henry Cavill, and Sam
Claflin.
Yeah, Sam Claflin. How do you say it?
Claflin.
Well, who's the name of Finnick?
Okay, Finnick is Sam.
Oh, that's Sam?
Yeah. He's
he's
Minecraft in the movie.
Name was different.
Yeah, he looks totally different though. So we'll provide our typical parent guidance, some of our likes and dislikes of the movie, and then give our overall opinion on whether or not we think it's worth seeing or not. So we'll start with kind of the overall concept of the movie is essentially this is Enola Holmes, who is the much younger sister of Sherlock Holmes, and I think it's based on a book series that came out in the kind of the 2010s, I think it is.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyways, it's Millie Bobby Brown stars as the titular character of Enola Holmes, and you kind of go on an adventure about when she turns 16 and she's searching for her mother, and so you follow kind of her adventure and throughout like England and London, and they do actually have Sherlock Holmes and his brother that show up, played by Henry Cavill and Sam Claflin. So what for parental guidance, I don't think Netflix has usually a PG rating, but I mean it seemed like it was pretty PG to me.
There's some blood and violence in it because there's combat.
Oh yeah, like there's some fighting, hand-to-hand fighting, and some.
There's scenes of peril. I mean, there's attempted murders and stuff.
Right.
Right.
But like really on a PG level, I mean, I think, right? I mean, it doesn't really get PG-13-ish even.
I mean, guns shooting at them.
Yeah. So it's perilous, but nothing that's like really.
Yeah, it could have like a very soft PG-13 rating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty tame. And then otherwise, I don't think there's not really much swearing, and there's not really much like anything else in it that's really would be, I think, questionable for adults. So it seems like a good family movie. Let's go talk about what did you like best about this movie. Let's start with the positives. Thoughts?
Millie Bobby Brown was really good. She's always been really good in Stranger Things, Godzilla, King Monsters, and this one she was really good.
Yeah, I think she was the biggest plus of this movie was her. I like the character too, but I think that she played it really well. She's a really great actress.
Mm-hmm.
Helena Bonham Carter as Mrs. Holmes is just good acting. Really, it was just like she was in the movie, and then it was mostly just flashbacks from there on.
Yeah.
Because she left as the main plot. So yeah, I mean, interesting.
The writing of it, I guess. Not like the dialogue in particular, but like the mysteries and everything behind it.
Yeah, the story was.
Stuff.
Yeah. I think the story was kind of it's similar to kind of the perspective of the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. Kind of like there's a mystery going on, and then they give you these kind of clues, and they kind of help you along through the story to kind of see how Enola uses her wit to figure things out.
The one.
Well, wait, before you get to the
I'm
things,
just saying, it's talking about this as well. Is that instead of explaining it as Sherlock Holmes RDJ did, she basically just tells you talk to the camera. Right. She talks to other people
and
sometimes,
she talks
but
to herself.
Yes,
she does.
But that's basically the camera.
No, it's just herself.
What'd you guys like about it?
I mean, I thought Millie Bobby Brown's performance was fantastic. She is really good in Stranger Things and everything, but I don't think she was really given an opportunity to shine there. At least not as much as she was in this movie. Just a lot of scenes of her, just in a room with just her and Henry Cavill acting, and the fact that she's able to act on par with Henry Cavill, who's like a huge Hollywood actor, is really, really impressive. given that she's like, what, 15, 16 or something?
16, I think.
Yeah, 16, being able to act on that level.
I don't know the actress's age.
I think the actress is actually 16. I think
Yeah.
I looked it up to see if she was older than the character, but I think it's actually right on.
Yeah, so then the fact that she's able to act that well is really impressive. And I thought, the movie did a good job, too, of the whole Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes stuff, in giving you kind of an insight into how she thinks. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. What didn't you like? We'll start with you, Ryan, since you already alluded to it.
Yeah, the main way they give exposition is Enola just kind of talks to the camera a lot, which isn't, it's just like basically purely expository. They try and make it funny, but it's just expository. And there's one scene that I think we all had a problem with,
Yeah.
where she talked to the camera, and she was basically like, I'm thinking, talking to this other person, and then she just looked at the camera and was like, do you have any ideas? I'm like, okay, Dora. We don't
It was a
need
very
to care.
short thing,
Yes,
though.
Yeah.
but it was...
And she fourth wall breaks, like...
Frequently.
Kind of her
well,
But it's not like meta or
Yes,
funny.
it was her style. It wasn't supposed to be meta. I think it was the idea that that's the style of the movie,
that's the
and
I
that's
think it
how
was
they're
supposed to be
explaining it.
playful.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
It was.
It grounds it a bit more from not being a super, like... Well, it doesn't make it a really, like, dark movie. Because it could be a lot darker if you take away that element from it.
Yeah, but I think it's also because Millie Bobby Brown,
Yeah, yeah.
it goes with like her personality. I think she's supposed to be much more of a like a likable, like fun character.
Yeah.
You mean Enola?
Yeah, Enola.
Yeah, Enola.
More
Sorry,
than,
Enola.
more than Sherlock
Yeah.
Holmes is supposed to be in his other movies.
Right.
She's very playful.
Right, exactly. So I think that kind of goes with the idea. So it was intentional, but if you don't like that, like Brian, if you don't like the fourth wall break stuff, then that could be off-putting for you for sure. Anybody else with things you didn't necessarily like about this movie?
Some of the names I just never caught what the names were because they were so long. I was like, is that a first name? I'm not really
Like-
sure. You're kind of an important character.
She said,
What is
like,
it?
if I count Tewksbury of Basil...
Basilweather.
Something,
Yeah, but it
And
was
she
super
said it
long.
like 3
If I
times,
count
like really
Tewksbury,
fast.
the Marquis of Basilweather. And I was like, what? It wasn't until I actually saw the things in writing that I could really...
And
get.
with the accents, I think it's a little bit difficult
Yeah.
sometimes.
That may be just
Yeah.
us, though.
The accents usually made sense. I didn't notice
Yeah,
them
the
a lot.
accents weren't too bad. Like, there's some movies where they have, like, really thick accents and you can't understand. I felt with this it was a very, like, understandable British accent, I guess.
Just the names.
Given that we're
Yeah,
American.
I mean, I think there was parts of it that were a little slow. Like
Yeah.
there was parts that were really kind of on pace, kind of kept things. It was a little uneven at points where I was kind of like, okay, where are we going with this? And then there are, I think somebody else, Brian, I might have put it out this after we saw it, which is like there are kind of a couple like 2 main storylines that get through, and you kind of lose one storyline at some point, and then at the end they come back to it, and
Kinda
you're like,
like-
what
What I
happened?
thought was the side story.
Yeah.
ended up-
Becomes
Become-
the
And then it
main
becomes the main
story.
story, and then they
She
just
puts
tie
it
up this,
aside.
like,
It's
they
pretty
tie up
weird.
the main story, like, right at the
Yeah,
end.
I mean they
Okay.
they kind of quickly at
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
end.
it quickly wraps it up, and it almost makes
Yeah.
the movie feel... It makes it feel like the first half of the movie was a bit pointless.
Yeah.
Because of how quickly it wraps up the end and switches from the side plot to the main plot.
There's this
It's
whole
kind of weird.
investigation, and then it's kind of like part of the side plots mixing into her trying to find her mom, and at some point you're just like, well, sorry, Mom, I'm gonna go do the side plot, and then she does all that stuff, and then like the last 5 minutes they're like, hey, look,
Right.
Mom,
Yeah,
back to the story.
I have mixed feelings because I wanted to like it. Like I like Millie Bobby Brown and her character, a strong female lead, setting out, doing her own thing. I don't have critiques about that, but overall it just felt like it didn't quite all come together the way that I wanted it to. And maybe that's me. But I really wanted to like it, but I found myself not liking it as much as I had hoped to.
Yeah.
So would you, before we get to the ratings, would anybody be interested in a sequel? Because clearly I think this is what they're kind of going for.
I would,
I'm not sure. It has to be a good plot.
yeah, I would watch a sequel, but like if they were going to try and continue after that, it'd be very dependent on how good that sequel is.
Learning
'Cause-
about the character is what made it interesting in the first one.
Yeah,
If-
the sequel
If
has
it were
to be.
a free sequel, I would watch it. If I had to pay for it, I don't know how inclined I would.
right. Yeah, I think it's one of those movies. I think actually it's a very good free on Netflix movie. But I wouldn't tell you to go spend money to go see it in a theater. And so a sequel, similarly, if they did a sequel to it, I'd be like excited for it and be like, oh, cool, I'd like to see what else she does next. The character of Enola Holmes, but I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, we're going to put it in theaters now. I'd be like, nah, I don't really want to see it that much. I'll wait till it comes on DVD or streaming. Yeah, that didn't super excite me. So what would you be your ratings? What rating would you give Enola Holmes?
4.4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 4 to maybe a 4.1. Overall, it wasn't bad, but once again, with just kind of abandoning the story, and I have problems with the fourth wall and whatever. It's like a 4 or 4.1 for me.
I give it a 4.
I'm thinking more like 3 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably give it about the same, if not a 4. Never mind, 4's too high. Yeah, about maybe like a 3.5. I didn't have any major gripes with the film. It's one that's not for me. I wasn't excited about it or anything, and I thought it had enough smaller problems in there to make it not as interesting as it could have been, at least for me. But I'm not the big person on like the mystery detective movies, I guess.
Do you like Sherlock?
Question. We initially thought it was going to be a series. Do you think it would have been any better as a series?
No.
As a TV show.
I feel like having
Show.
to continue. It depends. If it were like a small series of like half hours, if it were like a smaller series but like hours, like 5 like hour long episodes or 40-minute episodes, I'd be like, I'm not doing this.
There wasn't really any scene that I was like, oh, I wish that went on longer. So I don't think it would really benefit from that.
I feel like every scene was kind of just
I guess my opinion would be, and I don't think they would do this because they're too big of stars, but it would be kind of need to be like more like a Stranger. Like now that they've done the movie, I'd be interested in like a Stranger Things, like Enola Holmes in the case of the murder on 5th Street or whatever it is. That you could then see like a 5,
like a Sherlock series or an elementary series.
Yeah, like a 5, but but not even like a long going. It's just like like a quick like 5 episodes or 6 episode series, limited series that you would see like what she does in this one, and then 2 years later she does another one that's like another different mystery that she's solving. Now that they've set up this character in the movie, that's what I think would be interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say I would want a half an hour show for like 20.
Yeah,
20 episodes.
I think it's kind of weird to think about this movie as a series because there's not enough in this movie to fill a series, but I think it could have been if they would have taken, because it was a book series and stuff. It was like 3 books, I think, that were written about Enola Holmes. I think it could have been interesting to see that. I don't think I would have liked it anymore, but I think it could have been definitely different to see if they would have taken like the first book and then just tried to expand it in full detail into a series.
But see, that's why I wonder if they did that. Like, if this movie is like the first book,
I don't know.
And then the next book, they're like, well, we could do another movie, or we could do a series thing off of it because it's like more of about that mystery, like Sherlock Holmes is, where Sherlock Holmes, all the stories are different stories about the next mystery he's going to solve.
But I mean, at the same time, and also for me, I think the ending of this film was not good enough. It was unsatisfying. It was very unsatisfying, the ending, where it just it felt like it wrapped stuff up, but not well, not in a very interesting way. So I think, and it didn't leave anything, which I think is good, that it tried to have like parts of it that could have been like, there could be another film, but we don't need another
slightly
one.
open-ended.
No, not really open-ended, but it's just kind of the end is like her walking into the sunset, basically saying like, this is the end of my story for right now. So it's like, it's one that doesn't require a sequel or anything, which I think is good for Netflix to do that, because they don't really often do that. But it's just like, it wasn't interesting enough to warrant a sequel, I think.
Okay. All right. We have a bad joke, Ryan?
Indeed, we do, that I remember perfectly. Right now. I'm gonna need to check.
What about your hat?
It's like 1 cent.
I'm not wearing a hat, you're right. Okay.
Now it's time for Ryan's bad joke of the day.
What did the overly excited gardener do when spring arrived? What?
What did he do when spring arrived?
He wet his plants.
I get it.
When he
when he was overly excited.
Why don't the jokes get dad jokes pocket-sized?
He was overly excited. Nice, I got you. All right, that's our review of Enola Holmes. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.